Hello from the homestead. Today I'd like to discuss why I decided to install an off-grid solar system here as opposed to a whole house generator. I hope my thought process may offer some nuggets to anyone looking at doing the same. Please note that my number one goal throughout was to provide power to critical circuits during outages. Several years ago, my wife and I moved to a rural area in North Georgia. There are 2 cars at the local three-way stop. That's a traffic jam. It's almost 10 minutes to the closest traffic light. We have a bit of acreage here and a lot of trees. Unfortunately, in a rural area, trees sometimes fall on power lines, and power outages here are more common than we'd wish. We all have stories. Just in the last 2 months alone, tractor-trailer trucks have pulled down lines in almost the exact same spot on a curvy road near here. While the power lines on the homestead are underground, all the lines that feed our area are on poles. We got by for a while by using battery backups, but they only last about a half an hour. We picked up a dual fuel generator, which worked well, but it was hard to run all the devices we needed using power cords. About 5 years ago, I installed the transfer switch, which I'm very pleased with. This mostly solved the issues we had with short outages. However, we then experienced a 3-day outage that happened to occur during a very cold snap in the wintertime. Since we primarily use propane for our generator, propane tanks, we realized that these tanks can actually freeze up after an hour or two of use when it gets really cold. Changing tanks every 2 hours over the course of 3 days was not a lot of fun. The last straw was an 8-hour outage that occurred on a very warm day while my wife was home and I was out. She didn't feel comfortable hooking up the generator and flipping breakers on the transfer switch, so she sat in the dark while the temperature rose until I got back. Our desire to power either all or some of the home circuits led us to consider installing a whole house generator or an off-grid solar system. Our 5 closest neighbors, closest as in proximity, all have the most popular brand of whole house generators. 3 are using the 24 kilowatt version and the other 2 are using the 26 kilowatt version. You can hear most of these kick in off in the distance when power is lost. I'd already picked several of their brains as to why they chose the whole house generator option and was very close to purchasing one myself. However, during my due diligence, the idea of going solar grew and grew to the point where I decided that it would be best in my particular situation to go with solar. Here's the thought process I went through. First, initial cost. Each of my neighbors paid a different price for their generators. Some went with an all-in-one package from a vendor, while at least one rolled his own. The average price for the 24 kilowatt generators were $14,000. In my case, the price would have been a little bit more since I would have had to have either purchased a second propane tank, I have a small one, or upsized my existing one. I used $15,000 as the magic number for my calculations. This 24,000 kilowatt unit would technically power my whole house, but because 3 of my major appliances are electric, I'd have to make sure I didn't run everything at the same time. For solar, I originally priced out the EG4 6000 XP inverter, along with 3 5 kilowatt batteries, a rack, and 10 410 watt solar panels. The total for this, along with PV cable, connectors, and a couple of specialized tools, came to about $7,500. I ended up bumping this up to 6 batteries and 20 solar panels. I also purchased an EG4 charge inverter for those outages that occurred on cloudy days. For purpose of this conversation, I'll round that total number to $15,000, which is more or less what a whole house generator was going to cost me. However, there's a 30% tax credit that I can get for solar that I can't get for the generator. This brought the total for solar down to $10,500. Advantage solar. Second, performance and capacity. The whole house generator, in theory, would run my entire house without intervention on my part, as long as I didn't run every appliance at the same time. This, in my opinion, was the number one thing in favor of the generator. There are a couple of significant downsides, though. When power goes out, there's a 30-second delay before power is fully restored. I have a number of devices that wouldn't care much for this delay, and I would still need to have battery backups in place to keep this from being a problem. Another issue is runtime. A whole house generator shouldn't run for days and days on end. I've read conflicting information here where the manufacturer says you can basically run them as long as you have fuel. I've also read that you need to let them rest from time to time. The biggest manufacturer in whole house generators recommends that you change the oil every 50 hours. This means that you'd have to shut down the system at least every 2 days, long enough to change the oil. As you can probably imagine, whole house generators make noise. As noted above, I can hear the neighbors' units kicking in, and the closest neighbor to me is 1,000 feet away. It's not terrible, but it is a thing. On the solar side, I can produce 40,000 kilowatts with the system described on a good sunny day. That's here in May. I expect it to be a little bit more when we get to June. My average use is between 40 and 60 kilowatts depending on the season. Right off the bat, this means I can't run my whole house on solar alone. On cloudy days, I can top off my batteries as little or as often as I want with my charge inverter. Since I'm using a transfer switch to get power from the inverter to my main panel, I'm currently limited to 10 circuits. So, by definition, I'm not running my whole house. For the most part, though, all my needs are met except for hot water and laundry. In a pinch, I can hook up the water heater, but I have decided not to do so. With my solar setup, I won't experience a 30-second delay between the power going out and the generator kicking in. Since installing the solar system, we've suffered a few short outages, a 3-hour outage, and quite a number of blips where the power goes off and on repeatedly. I don't see these outages at all on the solar. There's no interruption, no power whatsoever, no blinks, no noises. I know the power went out because I can hear the neighbor's generators kick in. In this category, the whole house generator versus solar was a wash for me. Third, operating cost. Here's where some major differences kick in for me. In my area, we don't have natural gas. Propane is more expensive than natural gas, and especially since COVID. All our neighbors band together to negotiate the best price each season for getting our tanks filled. This works out to about $2 a gallon after taxes and fees. While your mileage may vary, most of my research pointed to 2 to 3 gallons per hour of usage to run a whole house generator. Using an average of 2.5 gallons per hour for my calculations, that means it costs about $5 an hour to operate. Of course, this doesn't count consumables such as oil, filters, etc. Our 3-day outage that occurred a couple of years ago would have cost me $360 in propane. My 8-hour outage last year would have cost me $40, and so on and so on. In other words, using the generator comes with a cost, an ongoing cost. My solar system, on the other hand, technically pays me to operate. Once installed and all hard costs have been incurred, there is no cost to operate except if I have to charge the batteries with the charge inverter. In fact, my electricity use decreases, which saves me money each and every day. Granted, it will take years for the solar system to pay for itself, but it will pay for itself eventually. With a generator, it only gets more expensive as time goes on due to fuel use. As you can tell from my previous videos, I went with the off-grid solar system instead of a whole house generator. Major reasons being initial cost, ongoing cost, and no interruptions of power during an outage. Conversely, the major reasons I did not go with the whole house generation are initial cost, ongoing costs, that 30-second delay for power to kick in, and ongoing maintenance. I realize everyone's needs are different, but I hope some of this was useful. If so, please like this video and subscribe. This makes YouTube happy, and we all want that, I'm sure. If you tick the notification bell as well, you'll see other videos as I post them from time to time. If you're interested in going solar, I purchased my system from Signature Solar. I have a link in the description below that will get you $50 off any purchase of $500 or more. I've had good luck with them both in shipping and support. Thank you and take care.